Hello everyone. Welcome back to another episode of r/malicious compliance. In today's episode, factory security supervisor gets destroyed. If only you hadn't argued. Cross post. How an obsessed parent can lose you your biggest client. Before we get started, be sure to subscribe so that you will never miss a video. Let's get started. Factory security supervisor gets destroyed. When I first started working for security a decade ago, I was a bright-eyed and prim/proper employee who believed that the only way to be a proper man was to be a company man through and through. My dad ignored his family to be a company man, and while I hated him, I figured I could emulate him till I had made it big and then tone it down when I wanted to start a family. I am now 29 and have no family/boyfriend/girlfriend and am still a company man, just for a few companies at the same time as a security operator and consultant. Imagine a much less badass and non-criminal version of Mike Ehrmantraut from Breaking Bad, but with a beautiful head of definitely not graying hair. Okay, it is graying and thinning, shut up, that is the one thing I'm sensitive about. I signed onto a private corporation's private security force at age 18. In hindsight, we were a PMC who never left the property. Firearms, Hummers, and all the fun toys to play with you could imagine. My boss was an asshat though. No matter how good you did your job, he would complain about something you were doing and threaten to write you up. He almost never followed through unless it was about firearms discharge. One night though, I get called in after I had already worked my 12-hour shift. After about a week, a dumbass coworker who did AM lockbox operations commented that I had organized the lockbox by name and department to my boss. That is the first thing to tell me he wasn't very bright. I had bought brass circular key tags that I personally punched with the initials of every employee and the first letter of their department in my off hours. For example, a 1 S would be Alexander 1220. Security or CL, H would be cleaning lady. Housekeeping or MC, or would be malicious compliance. Reddit. I was written up and essentially had my hours cut in half for altering key sets and assigning sets to workers, which was not one of my assigned duties despite being the PM keybox operator more often than not. I was merely to open the keybox for employees when I was radioed that someone was arriving on site, and then close it and patrol. It was my boss's job to alter keys or assign them to individuals, something he never once did. So I spent the better part of an hour taking these brass tags off the key rings and back into the giant key box for all departments and their 80 or so employees/spare rings, tossing them on hooks in a random order so my boss would have to come by and organize them. My boss did not. As I was leaving, he snidely smirked and yelled from his office, "You don't get to assign keys to employees, new guy. Maybe after you have a year under your belt I might trust you to get my coffee." I go home for a good old-fashioned cry out of frustration, hatred, rage, and humiliation. But eventually I decided that it was fine. I would get him fired or get fired trying. The worst that would happen is I get unemployment while looking for a new job. Things changed though, cause after that day when employees came up to the security offices to get their key rings, I would open up the lockbox and let them grab whichever set they wanted. When asked why they had to grab their own instead of being handed one, I would proudly shout out, "New orders, sir/ma'am. We open it for registered workers, not give them out." Other guards followed suit, because everyone is a gossip, especially security, and heard what happened to me getting written up/hours cut for assigning key rings. This goes on for about 2 weeks with minor inconveniences. Housekeeping calling us to unlock the garages and closets. Maintenance calling us to unlock roof access. Lots of stupid busy work that didn't happen when we were checking the keys before giving them out or during the 1 week we had my brass tags. Each ring has different types of keys based on what type of employee you were/what you needed access to. Factory workers didn't have office keys. Office workers didn't have factory keys. Only maintenance had roof access. Housekeeping had keys to storage garages and cleaning closets. Security had master keys. A criminal in maintenance notices this fact and he does what criminals do. One day during my shift he chews a security key ring. I am not paying any attention, after all. I don't assign keys to employees. Criminal ends up stealing a vehicle and a large amount of product worth over 100k USD before he is caught. He is on camera all over the site doing various petty crimes too. But no one cared about the maintenance guy doing nature potty or ducking the hot temp in the office like he has for the past month. To us guards, the latter was free pawn that we would break up after completion, until it turns out that sheet is missing about 2 or so weeks later when inventory is done. Criminal gets arrested for grand theft because he had stolen goods in his locker, and that was enough to get a search warrant for his home. But we don't recover the vehicle and over half of the stolen product. Here comes the fun part for those who have suffered through my first Reddit post and edit of said post. I get called back into work 2 or 3 hours after my 12-hour shift again. I arrive in uniform, giant thermos of coffee in one hand and site phone in the other, and am escorted by 2 other guards to a boardroom in the main office just off of the factory. Inside is a HR woman, the CEO, my boss, and a cardboard box filled with everything in my locker. Flashlights, 18,650 batteries, cartons of cigarettes, lighters, duty belt, sidearm baton, cuffs, personal firearm, ammo, phone chargers, misc work things. You can start to see where this is going, and the wheel is spinning full speed in my head. At this meeting I get chewed out 6 ways from Sunday by my boss about my negligence, and how my negligence caused other guards to shirk their duties and act with negligence, causing the theft to be possible. And while I am not criminally or civilly liable, I am no longer going to be able to work in security ever again. He will make sure of that. This is all with HR frantically trying to correct him and placate me to cover their asses from a wrongful termination lawsuit. I just sit there calmly and let this go on with a self-satisfied smirk on my face, waiting for my time to shine on this exit interview. I knew my time to shine had finally come, and my moment of revenge would soon be upon me. Finally, after what feels like forever, my boss stops spouting his fat lips, and the CEO starts. I have a few questions. Why did you stop caring? In your few months here, you were constantly finding ways to improve security. There are email chains about concerns you had, blind spots in the cameras, redundant systems, and even piggybacking. Your file showed that you took great pride in your work, and the GPS on the site phone issued to you shows you still have some of the best patrol coverage. Most people in other departments have good things to say about you. You were fitting in well here and could have potentially been promoted to site manager of security in a few years if you hadn't given up. So why did you stop caring and allow this to happen? What changed in that office? My smirk drops into a predatory grin. This shark has smelt blood in the water. I ask HR, do you have my employment file so we could take a look at what happened a few weeks ago? HR leaves and comes back with my entire file, which is surprisingly large for only being there 6 months so far. Certs, degrees, monthly corporate training modules, weekly range qualifications, ammo inventory/requests, DREs, incident reports, use of force reports. I pull out my site phone and ask to connect to the CEO's laptop, and he tentatively agrees. I transfer for photos over to the laptop before giving the site phone with the password disabled and laptop to him. 1 picture of the keybox pre-tags, 1 picture of the keybox during my tags, 1 picture of the write-up, 1 picture of the keybox post tags. I then turn and look at my boss and say, camera 7, 09-3, February 5, 2008. If we watch the footage, we can hear you give me my new orders in the hallway outside your office. After all, you did tell me not to assign keys and open the lockbox for employees. I had no clue those orders would cause this debacle. The HR rep goes through my file and finds the write-up and shows it in full to the CEO, while the CEO punches in the date and time to the camera. I watched that recording every day in rage and knew it by heart. It was a hallway PTZ camera. After the video finishes, I slowly reach into the box of my personal effects and show them the nearly 80 brass tags labeled with initials and divisions, the tags labeled spare, division, as well as 200+ blank ones. I was asked to leave the room by a furious CEO/frightened HR woman while my boss paled, and this time, instead of malicious compliance, I happily complied, knowing my revenge was going with surgical precision. Fact is, I knew someone would break/steal/enter an area off limits because they had access, and that means they had to see what was hidden behind the different departments. I never expected the size or scale of the theft though. Nearly 30 minutes later, my boss was leaving the office with an empty box and his severance pay. The dumbass who worked opposite of me was promoted. Turns out he had mentioned it to the boss because of how much easier things had been since the new guy, a KME, organized the box, and the company gave me a bonus as well of buying the tags off me. I kept my job there, and dumbass got to spend an hour reorganizing the lockbox with what was now the company's brass tags. Ended up leaving on good terms 18 months later when someone else offered me safer work closer to home for slightly less pay. Company names and products have been kept vague on purpose. I am under a non-disclosure agreement. No names, locations, countries, or hints will be given. I have carefully checked over my NDA while I type this, making sure that I follow it to the word. I still happily work in security and do not want to be blackballed from my industry. Though I'm happy to report I no longer do anything resembling PMCs. For those who may be curious, my personal sidearm that I kept at work in my locker was a Beretta PX for Storm, but the standard issue was a 1911. Not sure the maker, but my uniform fee would be reduced if I provided my own sidearm, so I used my own. Same with duty belt/gear. And the assigned rifle that I eventually purchased after I left was a FNPS 90, the civilian legal variant of the P90. I refer to the opposite shift associate as Dumbass because he was an idiot. He commonly broke keys, damaged vehicles, forgot to charge toys/equipment, and ended up shooting himself in the foot a few years after I left when his rifle got caught on his keyring and misfired. Freak accident, but with everything else I doubt his intelligence. Decent manager. Put in a suggestion box. Anonymous, and maintenance took care of most of the more pressing concerns, while petitioning HR and corporate for the last pressing issues. Essentially all he did was install a box and notepad and have maintenance do all the work. They probably built and installed the box. If only you hadn't argued. Cross-post. Cross-posted because I was told by a half-dozen people this belonged here too. Working escalations. Complaints to a supervisor. For internet tech support, I have an agent send me an angry customer over because he needs a tech to his house, but doesn't want to wait for our first available window. That's not unusual. What is unusual is that the window is 12 to 2 Monday, and it's currently 10:30 on Monday. Yes, that's an hour and a half from now. That's insane for us. We're usually about 2 days on average to have someone come out. So the agent sends him over to me. Here's the high points. Me, this is only 90 minutes away. That's extremely fast. Looking at the tech schedule, this is my only appointment available today. Then there's one on Wednesday 4:06, then pretty much any time from Thursday on. Even having this one available so close is highly unusual. Someone probably canceled their appointment a few minutes ago for this one to be here. I definitely can't do better. Are you sure you don't want this one? Him, no. Do not book me that time, you hear me? An hour and a half is too long. I want someone now. This is ridiculous, you people are awful. This goes on for a good 20 minutes before they give in. Fine, I'll take it, I guess. Well, I have bad news. While we've been arguing, someone else snapped up that appointment. It's not there to give it to you anymore. The first available now is that one from 4:06 Wednesday. What? Blargle. I want 12 to 2 today. I'm sorry, you wouldn't take it, so we didn't book it and now someone else has. No, this goes on for another 20 minutes while they argue both about losing their option for today and how Wednesday is too long of a wait. Fine, I'll take 4:06 Wednesday, but I am not happy. Who wants to guess what happened next? Yep, you're right. Well, I have some bad news. During that conversation, someone booked that time as well. We don't have any times until Thursday. Gah, customer hangs up. Disclaimer, in the interest of customer service, yes, I could have booked the earlier appointments while letting them argue. But with how adamantly and loudly they snapped at me when I offered to do so right off the start, I was happy to comply and low-key hoped for this exact thing to happen. I don't know if they called back later or what. I never heard about this customer again. How an obsessed parent can lose you, your biggest client. I've told this story to all my friends, and I suppose it's time I share it with you. I'm a developer at an agency. Our biggest client at the time was bank. Apparently, banks in our area have a huge hard-on for raffles, giveaways, and similar marketing tricks to get new accounts opened. Better yet, they are constantly trying to one-up each other, which is great for marketing/developer agencies like ours. We present them with an idea for their next big thing. We get 20 young influencers to take photos of themselves with some bank cards and stuff. All of them some small-scale school-age influencers paid a symbolic amount of money. I create an Instagram clone, where people vote for their favorite photo. Each week, a new set of photos opens up and voting starts again, for a total of 8 weeks. Everyone who participates in voting enters a raffle, and the influencer with the most votes gets a reward, a top-of-the-line newest smartphone. A lot for a kid their age, so we expected them to go rabid and get as many people as possible to vote for them, and possibly open up a bank account to get those extra raffle tickets. I was the sole developer for this job, which meant I had the opportunity to take out the fanciest tools in my toolbox. I was quite proud of the end product. It was done on time, on budget, well tested, and could handle tons of traffic. Then, the campaign goes live. Voting starts, traffic exceeds our expectations, everything on my side is working great. On the second day of the campaign, an 18-year-old influencer girl gets a massive spike in vote count during a 1-hour period. Immediately after, we get our mail flooded with cheating accusations from another participant's dad. This kid was a 14-year-old boy with a very important dad, somehow involved in politics and completely obsessed with his son's social media career. The very important dad is threatening us in every possible way he can. Negative social media posts, complaining to bank, boycotting the campaign by getting other participants on board, and somehow threatening legal action. In the same email, he mentions at least 3 times how his son is a huge social media personality, how we should be lucky to even have him in the game, how he didn't even want to participate in such a small-scale event, and just how impossible it is for him to receive fewer votes than influencer girl. At agency and bank marketing department, it's all hands on deck, while the rest is figuring out if there's any exposure and how to deal with very important dad. It's my job to find out if influencer girl cheated, and to get proof. While the security was done right, auditing and logs were inadequate for this investigation. Server access logs contained IP addresses and such but contained no information that would allow me to connect HTTP requests to actual users and who they voted for. Authentication was done either via Google SSO, Facebook SSO, or SMS code verification. Database records were consistent, so I ended up browsing through the SSO data, trying to spot any sign of multiple dummy Google or Facebook accounts being created just to vote for influencer girl. The best proof I could come up with was the ratio between different authentication methods. If influencer girl cheated, the makeup of the accounts that voted for her would be different from the rest of the accounts. In layman's terms, if the app had 40% of users registered via Google, 35% via Facebook, and 25% via SMS, and the accounts that voted for her had the same ratio, or at least not different enough for any statistical significance, it would 99% prove that she did not cheat. If she cheated, she would have to know the ratio to fake it. Although, she could devise an elaborate plan to get the data from another website with a similar target audience, buy hundreds of burner phones, create thousands of Google and FB accounts, all to get that main reward, a phone. A most likely explanation according to very important dad. The people at bank did not quite understand the mathematics, so my investigation failed to reach any conclusions. So they did the obvious. A lawyer from bank called influencer girl to ask her how she got those votes. Turns out she was an animator at a college party, where she picked up the microphone and told everyone to vote for her. She then signed a statement that this was true. For the remaining weeks, we were stalling very important dad, telling him that the investigation is in progress, and that we cannot give him more information without violating our privacy policy. Meanwhile, he had his friends post conspiracy theories on social media and other weird comments on bank and agency pages. In the end, the campaign exceeded all KPIs, some by a factor of 10, and would be considered a massive success were it not for the accusations of cheating. It put a strain on our relationship with the bank and we received no future projects like this from them. Eventually, they pulled all their work. If you made it to the end of the video, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe and share, and we will see you in the next video.